The quantum comm array aboard the EDS Horizon erupted with activity, breaking the routine silence of deep space patrol. Captain Nora Winters leaned forward in her command chair, her weathered features illuminated by the holographic display. The message was unlike anything they'd encountered before, a desperate plea for help encoded in mathematical sequences that transcended language barriers. "Analysis complete, Captain," Lieutenant Jun Takashi reported from his station, dark eyes fixed on the streaming data. "The signal originates from the Centaurus arm, specifically the Helios cluster. It's sophisticated. Whoever sent this knew exactly how to make themselves understood." Nora nodded, studying the translated message with growing concern. The Ver, a species previously unknown to humanity, faced extinction at the hands of an aggressive force they called the Shadowmen. Their world, once a beacon of scientific advancement, now stood on the brink of annihilation. "What about the Galactic Council?" Nora asked, turning to her diplomatic officer, Raj Patel, whose usual calm demeanor showed signs of strain. "That's the problem, Captain. They've already dismissed the Ver's plea. According to Council records, the Helios cluster falls under their non-intervention protocol. They're claiming insufficient evidence of genuine threat." The bridge fell silent. Humanity had only recently gained observer status in the Galactic Council, their rapid technological advancement both impressing and unsettling the older spacefaring races. But this felt different. Wrong. First Officer Marcus Chen, a veteran of Earth's first extrasolar conflicts, spoke up. "The Council's playing politics while an entire civilization dies. Classic bureaucratic paralysis." Nora rose from her chair, packing the command deck. The Horizon's bridge crew watched their captain, recognizing the determination in her stride. 20 years of service had taught them to read her well. "Get me a direct link to Earth Defense Command," she ordered, "and begin calculating jump coordinates to the Helios cluster. If the Council won't act, we will." Within hours, the response from Earth shocked the Galactic Council's observers. Instead of compliance with established protocols, humanity mobilized. The Earth Defense Fleet, led by Admiral James Harrison, prepared for immediate deployment. New technologies, developed in secret since Earth's first encounters with hostile species, were quickly integrated into the response fleet. Lieutenant Colonel Diana Reeves stood before the assembled troops in the Horizon's main hangar, her powered armor gleaming under the harsh lights. "We've developed countermeasures against the Shadowmen's reported capabilities," she announced to the gathered soldiers. "Our quantum-locked armor should resist their phase-shifting attacks. Remember your training, we're not just fighting for the Ver, we're fighting for every species that's been abandoned to their fate." The Council's emergency session descended into chaos as humanity's fleet prepared for departure. Ambassador Kira Yoshida stood firm before the assembled representatives, her voice steady despite the outcry. "You ask why Earth would risk so much for strangers? Because that's who we are. Throughout our history, humans have sailed storms and crossed oceans to help those in need. Space may be vast, but our principles remain the same." In the depths of the Horizon's engineering section, Dr. Victor Rossi and his team worked tirelessly, fine-tuning the experimental shield technology that might give them an edge against the Shadowmen. "The quantum resonance field is stable," he reported, wiping sweat from his brow. "If their weapons really do manipulate spacetime, our countermeasures should hold." As the Earth fleet prepared to jump, Captain Winters received one final transmission from Earth Defense Command. Admiral Harrison's message was brief but clear. "The Council's inaction ends today. Show them what humanity stands for." The Horizon's quantum drive hummed to life, followed by dozens of other ships in the response fleet. Nora stood at the helm, watching the stars blur as they prepared for faster-than-light travel. Behind her, the crew worked with quiet efficiency, each person aware of the stakes. "Jump coordinates locked," Jun announced. "Fleet is in formation and ready." Nora took a deep breath, thinking of the desperate messages they'd received, of the lives hanging in the balance. The Council had turned away, but Earth would not. They would prove that humanity's place in the galaxy wasn't just about technological achievement. It was about courage, compassion, and the willingness to stand against darkness. All ships, she commanded, her voice carrying across the fleet's comm network. Prepare for jump. The Vare called for help, and by God, help is exactly what they're going to get. In the seconds before the jump, Nora thought about how this moment would be remembered, not just as humanity's first defiance of the Council, but as a declaration of principles. The galaxy would learn that when Earth made first contact with a species, they gained not just allies, but protectors. The fleet vanished into quantum space, leaving behind a stunned Council and carrying with them humanity's promise. No cry for help would go unanswered, not while Earth stood watch. The Earth Defense Fleet emerged from quantum space at the edge of the Helios cluster, sensors immediately coming alive with data. Captain Winters stood at the horizon's observation deck, watching as the holographic display painted a grim picture of the situation below. The Vare homeworld, once a jewel of technological achievement, now lay shrouded in an otherworldly darkness. Multiple Shadowmen vessels detected, Jun reported, his fingers dancing across the sensor array. They're not like anything we've encountered before. These ships seem to bend light around them. First Officer Chen leaned over the tactical display, studying the enemy formation. They're arranged in a containment pattern. They're not just attacking the planet, they're harvesting it. In the ship's main engineering bay, Dr. Rossi and his team worked frantically to calibrate their defensive systems. The quantum resonance shields, Earth's secret weapon against the Shadowmen's phase-shifting technology, required precise adjustment to counter the alien threat. The Shadowmen's ships, Rossi explained over the comm to Captain Winters, they're not just bending light, they're manipulating the fabric of space-time itself. But our quantum-locked systems should create a stable pocket of normal space around our ships. They can't phase through what they can't warp. Lieutenant Colonel Reeves assembled her ground teams, the massive hangar bay filled with troops in advanced powered armor. Each suit represented the pinnacle of human military technology, designed specifically for this confrontation. The enemy thinks they're untouchable, Reeves addressed her soldiers, her voice carrying authority and conviction. They've never faced humans before. Let's show them why that was a mistake. The Shadowmen noticed the Earth fleet's arrival, their ships shifting like liquid darkness against the stars. A transmission reached the horizon, its contents causing the translation computers to strain. They're warning us off, Raj translated, his expression grim. They say this isn't our concern, that the Council has acknowledged their right to harvest pre-spacefaring civilizations. Captain Winters' response was immediate. Send them our reply. Earth recognizes no right to genocide, and the Vare aren't alone anymore. The first shots of the battle illuminated space like artificial stars. The Shadowmen's weapons, designed to phase through conventional shields, met their match in Earth's quantum-locked defenses. For the first time in their long history of conquest, the Shadowmen faced an enemy they couldn't simply pass through. Multiple breaches detected in their containment field, Jun reported, excitement creeping into his voice. Their phase technology can't maintain cohesion against our quantum disruption. First Officer Chen coordinated the fleet's attack pattern, years of tactical experience evident in his command. All ships maintain quantum shield integrity, push through their lines, create a corridor for our ground forces. In the depths of the horizon, Dr. Rossi monitored the quantum field generators with growing concern. The shields are holding, but the Shadowmen are adapting. They're learning, trying to find frequencies that can penetrate our defenses. Captain Winters watched as Earth's ships pressed their advantage, their formation cutting through the Shadowmen's lines like a blade. They've never had to fight a real battle, she observed. They're used to their technology making them invincible. Time to teach them about human determination. The Vare's surface came into view as the fleet descended through the atmosphere. Their cities, once marvels of crystalline architecture, now stood partially consumed by the Shadowmen's dark energy. But sensors detected life signs, thousands of survivors, holding out in shielded bunkers and underground facilities. Lieutenant Colonel Reeves' voice came over the comm as her drop ships prepared for launch. Ground teams ready, Captain. We're going to give these people back their world. The battle for the Vare homeworld had begun. Earth's forces, acting against the Galactic Council's wishes, demonstrated a truth that would reshape galactic politics. Humanity would not stand idle while innocents suffered. The quantum shields held firm, the ground teams prepared for deployment, and the Shadowmen faced an enemy unlike any they'd encountered in their long history of unopposed conquest. As the first wave of drop ships launched toward the surface, Captain Winters sent a final message to the fleet. The galaxy turned its back on the Vare, but Earth has arrived, and we bring with us humanity's oldest promise that no cry for help will go unanswered, no matter the cost. The drop pods pierced the atmosphere of the Vare homeworld like falling stars, each carrying Earth's elite soldiers toward the surface. Lieutenant Colonel Reeves led the descent, her quantum-locked armor glowing as it repelled the Shadowmen's attempts to phase through their defenses. "Impact in 30 seconds, she broadcast to her teams. "Remember your training. These beings have never faced resistance they couldn't simply pass through. Let's show them what happens when they meet someone who can hit back." The pods crashed into the crystalline ruins of what had once been the Vare's capital city. The sight that greeted Earth's forces was haunting buildings half consumed by living darkness, their structures seemingly pulled into another dimension. But amid the devastation, sensors detected strong life signs. The Vare still fought, hidden in reinforced shelters beneath their city. "Multiple Shadowmen entities converging on our position," reported Sergeant Kai Wang, his heavy weapons team already establishing a perimeter. The enemy moved like living shadows, their forms rippling with impossible geometries. But when they struck against the humans' quantum-locked armor, they found something new: resistance. From orbit, Captain Winters coordinated the fleet's support. "Ground teams, be advised. We're detecting unusual energy signatures. The Shadowmen are attempting to alter their phase frequency." Dr. Rossi's voice cut through the comm channel. "They're learning, adapting to our quantum lock technology, but we prepared for this. Activate your secondary resonance fields." The battle that unfolded in the streets of the Vare capital would be remembered for generations. The Shadowmen, used to simply passing through any defense, found themselves forced into direct combat. Their otherworldly powers met Earth's advanced technology, and for the first time, they learned what it meant to face an equal opponent. Lieutenant Colonel Reeves led her squad toward the largest concentration of Vare life signs. The alien survivors had taken refuge in an ancient scientific facility, its walls reinforced with their own attempts at phase-resistant technology. As Earth's forces approached, they received their first direct communication from the Vare. "The signal's coming through clear," Jun reported from the horizon. "They're using our own quantum frequencies to communicate. They've been studying us since we arrived." A voice, carefully translated by Earth's computers, filled their comms. "We had lost hope when the Council abandoned us. But you came, you fight the unstoppable. How?" Reeves responded while directing her forces to form a defensive line around the facility. "Because that's what humans do. We look at impossible and see a challenge. Now let's get your people out of here." The Shadowmen's response to the evacuation was immediate and overwhelming. The darkness between buildings seemed to come alive, forming into creatures that defied conventional physics. But Earth's forces held their ground, quantum-locked weapons, firing bursts of stabilized spacetime that forced the Shadowmen to remain solid, vulnerable. First Officer Chen's voice crackled over the command channel. "Multiple Shadowmen capital ships descending through the atmosphere. They're trying to cut off our evacuation route." "Not today," Captain Winters responded. The Horizon and its sister ships moved into position, their quantum shields creating a corridor of normalized space through the Shadowmen's dark energy field. "Ground teams, you have your window. Make it count." The evacuation began in earnest. Earth soldiers formed a protective ring around groups of Vare civilians, their armor's quantum fields extended to shield the refugees. The Vare themselves proved to be tall, crystalline beings whose bodies seemed to channel light itself, a stark contrast to their shadowy tormentors. Dr. Rossi's team worked frantically aboard the Horizon, monitoring the quantum field generators. "The Shadowmen are trying to collapse our corridor. They're coordinating their phase shifts, attempting to overwhelm our stabilization field." Hold the line, Reeves commanded as another wave of shadow entities crashed against their position. Her troops responded with disciplined fire, their weapons creating pockets of normalized space that trapped and shattered the Shadowmen forces. The Ver's chief scientist, a being who introduced himself as Luminarch Crystallos, worked quickly with Dr. Rossi via quantum-encrypted channels. "Your technology," he communicated, "it forces reality to behave according to normal physics. Combined with our crystal tech, we might be able to do more than just defend." In the streets, Sergeant Wang's team discovered this possibility firsthand. When their quantum fields intersected with Ver crystal technology, the effect was spectacular waves of stabilized space-time that didn't just stop the Shadowmen, but forced them completely into normal space, stripped of their phase-shifting abilities. "Captain," Reeves reported, excitement clear in her voice, "we found their weakness. The Ver's technology amplifies our quantum fields. We can lock the Shadowmen into normal space permanently." Above the battlefield, Captain Winters watched as the tide began to turn. Human determination, combined with Ver knowledge, was accomplishing what the Galactic Council had deemed impossible. The Shadowmen, for the first time in their history of conquest, were being pushed back. "All forces," she broadcast, "this is it. Coordinate your quantum fields with Ver crystal tech. Show these shadows what happens when the light fights back." The battle for the Ver homeworld had become more than a rescue mission. It had become proof that humanity's greatest strength wasn't just its technology or its courage, but its ability to unite with others, to stand against impossible odds, and to turn the tide when all hope seemed lost. The merged technologies of humanity and the Ver created something unprecedented in the battle-scarred capital. Quantum-locked fields, amplified by crystalline resonators, pushed back the encompassing darkness meter by meter. But the Shadowmen were far from defeated. Their response came with a fury that shook the very foundations of reality. "Multiple dimensional rifts detected," Jun's urgent voice cut through the command channel. "They're trying to bring in reinforcements from somewhere else." Captain Winters watched as space itself seemed to tear open above the planet. Through these wounds in reality poured ships of impossible geometries, each one darker than the void between stars. The Shadowmen were calling in their main fleet. "They've never had to do this before," First Officer Chen observed, his tactical display lighting up with new threats. "We've pushed them far enough that they're showing their full strength." In the streets below, Lieutenant Colonel Reeves coordinated with Luminarch Crystallos. The Ver scientist's crystalline form pulsed with internal light as he worked to integrate their technologies. "Your quantum fields," he communicated through the translation matrix, "they don't just resist phase shifting, they can anchor reality itself." Dr. Rossi's voice joined the discussion from the Horizon's engineering bay. "He's right. The Shadowmen aren't just phase shifters, they're reality benders. But together, we might be able to lock them into normal space permanently." The cost of this discovery came high. As Sergeant Wang's team pushed toward another group of survivors, a Shadowmen entity managed to partially phase through their defenses. The resulting explosion of conflicting physics left 3 soldiers critically wounded and created a lasting tear in space-time. "We need more power," Luminarch Crystallos insisted, his crystalline form resonating with urgency. "Your ship's quantum generators, combined with our city's crystal matrix, we could create a field large enough to cover the entire capital." Captain Winters made her decision. "All ships move into position above the city. Prepare to divert all power to quantum generators. Dr. Rossi, work with the Luminarch, make this happen." The Shadowmen seemed to sense their intentions. Their attacks intensified, reality-bending weapons striking Earth's fleet with renewed fury. Several ships took critical damage, their quantum shields flickering under the assault. "Hull breach on Deck 7, Jun reported, his hands flying over his console. "Quantum field stability at 60% and dropping." First Officer Chen coordinated the fleet's defensive pattern. "They're trying to stop us from establishing the field. They know what we're planning." In engineering, Dr. Rossi and his team worked frantically to modify the Horizon's quantum generators. "The crystal matrix is aligning," he reported, But Captain, this much power through our systems, some of the ships won't survive the feedback. How many? Winters asked, her voice steady. At least 3 will lose all power. They'll be dead in space. The choice lay heavy in the command center. 3 ships, hundreds of lives. But against that weight stood the lives of billions of Ver, and the knowledge that if the Shadowmen weren't stopped here, they would continue their harvest across the galaxy. All ships, this is Captain Winters. You've seen what these beings do to innocent worlds. We didn't come this far to back down now. Prepare for full power transfer on my mark. Lieutenant Colonel Reeves' voice came through the comm. Ground teams are in position. We've established quantum relay points throughout the crystal matrix. Ready when you are. The Shadowmen's main fleet had almost finished emerging through their dimensional rifts. Thousands of dark ships now filled the sky, their very presence distorting the light of nearby stars. They're attacking the crystal matrix, Jun warned. Multiple breaches in our perimeter. Sergeant Wang's remaining team fought desperately to defend the crucial relay points. We can hold them, but not for long. Whatever you're planning, do it now. Captain Winters stood at her command station, watching as the Shadowmen fleet moved to surround them. Everything had led to this moment: humanity's technology, the Ver's knowledge, and the courage of every soldier on the ground. All ships divert full power to quantum generators. Ground teams activate the crystal matrix. Let's show these shadows what happens when humanity and the Ver stand together. The horizon shuddered as its power systems redlined. Throughout the city, crystalline spires began to glow with internal light. The quantum field generators screamed as they channeled more power than they were ever designed to handle. 3 ships went dark, their crews sacrificing everything to maintain the power transfer. But in that moment, as human and Ver technology merged, something remarkable happened. A wave of pure reality expanded outward from the city, a sphere of normalized spacetime that couldn't be bent or phased through. The Shadowmen fleet, caught in the wave, found themselves suddenly, permanently solid. Their reality-bending powers stripped away, their ships became visible in normal space, vast, dark constructs that were now vulnerable to conventional weapons. "Field is stable," Dr. Rossi reported, his voice filled with awe. "We've done it. We've actually done it." In the stunned silence that followed, Captain Winters opened a channel to the Shadowmen fleet. "Your weapons are useless. Your ships are locked in normal space. For the first time, you face enemies you cannot simply phase through or bend around. Withdraw now, or learn exactly how humanity fights when backed into a corner." The response came not in words, but in actions. The Shadowmen fleet, faced with adversaries they could no longer simply ignore or phase through, began to retreat. Their dimensional rifts, now stripped of their reality-bending properties, collapsed behind them. But victory had come at a cost. 3 Earth ships floated powerless in orbit, their crews having sacrificed everything to power the quantum field. The streets below were littered with the remains of quantum-locked armor and crystalline technology, marking where brave soldiers had fallen to buy time for the plan to work. Yet in the end, they had achieved what the Galactic Council had deemed impossible. Humanity and the Ver, working together, had driven back the unstoppable. As rescue operations began for the crews of the powerless ships, Captain Winters looked down at the saved world below. "Send word to Earth," she ordered. Tell them that humanity kept its promise, and the galaxy will never be the same." The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Captain Winters stepped onto the speaking platform. Behind her stood Luminarch Crystallos, his crystalline form casting rainbow refractions across the ancient hall. The assembled representatives of 1,000 worlds watched, many seeing a human in person for the first time. "3 weeks ago," Winters began, "this council declared the Ver's situation hopeless. You turned away from their pleas. You chose inaction in the face of genocide. Today, I stand before you not to apologize for Earth's intervention, but to show you what becomes possible when we choose to act." The holographic displays activated, showing the Ver homeworld. Where once darkness had consumed entire continents, now crystal cities gleamed in the sunlight. The combined quantum crystal technology had not only driven back the Shadowmen, but had begun to heal the reality-warped spaces they left behind. First Officer Chen, standing at the chamber's tactical display, presented the military analysis. The Shadowmen fleet suffered unprecedented losses. More importantly, the quantum crystal technology we developed has been proven effective against their phase-shifting abilities. Their primary tactical advantage is gone. Dr. Rossi stepped forward, accompanied by a team of VAIR scientists. We've already begun sharing our findings with other worlds threatened by the Shadowmen. The quantum crystal barriers can be replicated, adapted to protect other civilizations. What was impossible alone becomes achievable together. The council erupted in discussion, their translator matrices struggling to keep up with the overlapping conversations. Ambassador Yoshida raised her hand for silence. Earth broke protocol, she acknowledged. We acted without council approval, but we also proved something vital, that the galaxy's younger civilizations have much to offer if only you'd listen. Lieutenant Colonel Reeves, her armor still bearing scars from the battle, presented the ground combat footage. The council watched in stunned silence as human soldiers fought alongside VAIR defenders, their combined technologies achieving what neither could manage alone. We lost good people in this fight, Reeves stated firmly. Earth ships destroyed, brave soldiers sacrificed, but every one of them would make the same choice again because that's who we are. That's what humanity stands for. Sergeant Wang, now promoted for his actions in defending the Crystal Matrix, spoke next. The Shadowmen believed themselves invincible because they had never faced unified resistance. They conquered isolated worlds one by one. But unity, cooperation, that's something they never counted on. The Council's High Chancellor rose, his ancient form towering over the assembly. You speak of unity, yet you acted alone. You broke our most sacred protocols. No, Captain Winters countered. We acted with the VAIR. We proved that when species work together, sharing knowledge and technology, even the impossible becomes possible. The real question is, why didn't the Council do the same? Luminarch Crystallos moved forward, his crystalline voice resonating through the chamber. My people faced extinction. The Council offered us nothing but protocol and procedure. Humanity offered us partnership. They risked everything not to conquer or control, but to save. That is worth more than all your ancient laws. The display shifted to show the combined Earth-VAIR fleet now patrolling the liberated system. The ships bore new markings, a merged insignia representing both species' commitment to mutual defense. We're establishing a new coalition, Ambassador Yoshida announced, open to any civilization that believes in mutual protection and cooperation. The Galactic Defense Alliance will not wait for Council approval to help worlds in need. Dr. Rossi's team presented the technical specifications for the quantum crystal barriers. This technology belongs to everyone now. Will help any world that wants to establish their own defenses against reality-bending threats. The council chambers erupted again, but this time the tone was different. Dozens of representatives stepped forward, expressing their world's interest in joining the alliance. The younger species, long held back by council protocols, saw an opportunity for real change. Captain Winters watched as the galaxy's political landscape transformed before her eyes. Humanity didn't come to the stars to conquer or to submit, she declared. We came to connect, to help, to stand with others against the darkness. The Shadowmen taught us all a valuable lesson. No species can face the universe's threats alone. But together we can achieve the impossible. As the session concluded, news spread across the galaxy. The Shadowmen, once thought invincible, had been driven back. Earth, once dismissed as too young and aggressive, had proven the power of cooperation. The VAIR, once abandoned to their fate, now stood as equals in a new alliance that would reshape galactic politics. In the Horizon's observation deck, Captain Winters stood with her crew, watching the combined fleet prepare for departure. New ships were arriving daily, vessels from dozens of worlds seeking to join the alliance. The Council said we weren't ready for the galaxy, First Officer Chen remarked. Turns out the galaxy wasn't ready for us. Winters smiled, watching as a VAIR crystal ship took formation alongside Earth vessels. We didn't just save one world, she said. "We showed the galaxy a new way forward, and this is just the beginning." The Horizon's quantum drives powered up, its crystal-enhanced systems humming with new potential. Across the galaxy, other worlds were calling for help, and now they knew their calls would be answered. Humanity had kept its promise, not just to the Ver, but to all species who faced darkness alone. The age of isolation was over. The era of cooperation had begun, and it started because Earth refused to turn away when others needed help.